he talks about this concept of like every time you approach a piece of work, you should approach it like, or a piece of personal work, like not for a commercial cause.
You should work, freelance
yeah,
work.
exactly. You should approach it like it's an entry in your diary.
Yeah.
And I love that because we've used that language on this show before. And we've talked about that concept a little bit before, but it just makes perfect sense to me as like, from like recording a moment in time, with the work is, for me, it works because it's just so much easier to revisit that and not cringe.
Yep.
At a future date. It's just so much more. And I think part of that is just how honest it is.
Yeah.
And so the point that he makes is that when you're doing a diary entry, there's no point in lying to yourself.
Right.
You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah. The diary is the one place you can tell the truth.
The diary is the entire thing is to tell the truth in the diary, right? And then you can reflect on that truth and you can grow from it. And that's exactly what creating work is.
Yep.
Is, you're putting down your perception of a series of events or of something that's happened or that might happen or whatever. You're recording this and you're getting these thoughts down and then you're reflecting on it. And there's no point in lying.
Right.
You're the only person and I love that because I think that's how you should approach work. And so we're sitting here talking about this and it's going through my head like, so it's just all about honesty. And I'm like, well, if I'm being honest right now, like, I don't give a shit about talking about, this or that or these ideas on the Milanote. And I was like, I'm feeling this pressure to sit down and just record a podcast. I'm very nervous. Like we had a conversation, the pre-show, and like this one felt a little more, there's just this anxiety there about like, oh, we're going to have to just at some point turn the cameras on
and like
record,
put on a show. And I don't mean
I think,
talk about something
it's
that's
been
valuable.
So long since we've done it. Yeah. And, with every episode that you release, suddenly the expectation raises a little bit and like, oh, you have to give some kind of value or whatever. And so I'm sitting over here just like,
starting to get nervous.
Yeah, it's getting nervous, like crippling fear setting in. And it's really silly because, it's not like it's not like there's a lot of people or...
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. And then Matt and I started talking through that a little bit. And I think we both face the same thing at times with creating work that's not, this show or whatever, where you do it a little bit, just enough to kind of set the expectation. And then suddenly there's an expectation. And this is absolutely a pattern with me where maybe it's a photo project.
Yeah.
And you'll start and you'll get like 20% into it, 25% into it, whatever. And, it's enough. The proof of concept is there. It's going to work. You just have to keep going. But then you're far enough into it too, where you're like, I've been at this for a while. Anything I do now is just going to be uninteresting.
Right.
Or like I need to evolve. And then you overthink it. And then usually I just pull away from it. I try to go find an outlet somewhere else or whatever. And then I felt myself feeling that with this podcast. And what we ended up doing is, okay, let's just run with that. We'll sit down and press record. And that's where we're at right now.
And I'm curious with the nervousness too. Not that, you know exactly what the nature of it is or what the sort, what things you're thinking about that inform the nervousness. It could just be general, like, oh, we've got to make good work today with this podcast. And that just, the idea of that general umbrella thing makes me nervous versus, is anything that's happening with the podcast or adding, a few, we've, 15 subscribers in the last however many weeks, which is, pretty good for where we are. Like, are any of those things contributing to that nervous feeling, or is it literally just, oh shit, we gotta like make some work today and tell the truth?
Yeah, no, I think it's just one. It's as soon as we hit 69 subscribers, we're gonna have to stop making episodes forever. So that's done. Unfortunate.
Can you pause subscriptions? Like, is there a setting in YouTube where you can't
start kicking people out
just to keep it at that glorious number?
I think that.
Couldn't resist.
No, I think that it's just it's just expectation. You create a sense of expectation.
Expectations they
On
have of you or us.
they have on, but I mean, it's also just expectations on myself, right?
Okay.
You know, we have to watch the episode before we put it up.
Right. Yep.
So we've seen the last 10 episodes. We've seen the, you know,
Yeah.
the next one that'll come out, you know, in the sequence. And it's like, we know what we've talked about, and we've seen all the titles, and like we'll scroll through the page and see what we've talked about. And, you know, at a certain point, and we're getting there where I'm just being hypercritical, and I've created a level of expectation. And I think the anxiety is like, well, you have to live up to that expectation.
Right.
And the irony of that anxiety is that to live up to that expectation, I think what we need to do is just be honest when we're having conversations and not avoid things that, you know, that we're feeling.
Yep.
It's kind of like, you know, in a good relationship where communication is, you know, it has to be at the forefront. You just have to make sure that if you're feeling something, it might not be the most convenient to bring up or the most comfortable to bring up, but it's probably best in the long run. I think the same goes for creating work, or, you know, the crossroads we're at right now with this. I wouldn't even say we're at a crossroads. It's business as usual. But we took so much time off of recording that, you know, if you step away from something long enough, you give yourself time to think.
Yeah.
And typically time to think is not good for action.
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the sunrise.